joining us on another episode of Pinal's People. Our guest today is Ms. Gussie Taylor, a 36-year veteran of the Pinal County Sheriff's Office, a longtime resident of Coolidge, and a proactive member of the Pinal County community, with years of volunteerism under her belt. Ms. Gussie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We are excited to have you on the show, and we're excited to get started. So to launch our conversation today, could you, for our viewers who might not be familiar with you, can you share a bit about your background? And I know you grew up in Coolidge, but you spent a lot of time out in Randolph. Could you share a little bit about your background out in Coolidge and Randolph and your time with the Sheriff's Office?
First of all, I am the third of 20 children. My mother birthed 20 children. My mom and dad divorced, so I was raised by my single dad, and we lived on a farm just outside of Coolidge. I attended school in Coolidge, where I was very active, even in my young age. I was very active. I loved sports. I did a lot of track running, a lot of sports, including baseball playing and all that. And I am not really a competitive person, but I'm always want to do my best. I don't try to compare myself with anybody else, but whatever I do, I want to be first. I want to give my all, do my very best, and that's what I did. I've got blue ribbons in track and like that, and hit a few home runs, but other than that, I don't really compete with people. I just want to show the best of me.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a beautiful philosophy. So could you share a little bit about, because 36 years with the Pinal County Sheriff's Office, that's quite a career. Could you share a little bit about what got you interested in a career in law enforcement?
After high school, I moved to Phoenix. I was up there about 10 years. After 2 divorces and 4 kids, I decided the city was not for me. I moved back to Coolidge, and that first year I worked at the school. I was a teacher's aide, and when school was up, I went to the check for a job, and they gave me an application to Coolidge PD. I was hired on at Coolidge PD. I worked there for about a year and a half, and for about $50 a month more, I transferred over to Pinal County Sheriff Department, where I started as a dispatcher. And I love dispatching. Once I started working in law enforcement, that was my first love. However, it got a little tough raising 4 kids and working the night shift and rotating shifts. So I did put in a request, and I was offered a position in the detention part of it. So I transferred into detention, and I worked in the office there. I was able to work days until the kids grew up and moved away, and I was able to, at that time, decided to, since I had the spare time, I did attend a Peace Officer Academy at CAC, and I became a reserve officer. With the Sheriff's Office, I also was a training officer. I was I started in the computer division. Matter of fact, I wrote the first program for our booking at Pinal County Sheriff's Office, because before I leave in Phoenix, I learned to work on computers, and I wrote the first program. And I always try to do whatever is needed, but I just love it. And I was transportation officer. We would pick up inmates. I would pick up inmates from Superior and Kearney Jail and transport them to Florence so they could attend court on Monday morning. So I've worked in just about every division with the Sheriff's Office, and I loved every moment of it. I was also appointed the coordinator for our law enforcement torch run, and that's with the Special Olympics Arizona, and I was also a state council member with the law enforcement torch run. And I just have been opened up so many opportunities for me at the Pinal County Sheriff's Office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit, because I mentioned earlier you had quite a bit of volunteerism under your belt.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit, what got you interested in fulfilling that role of the torch runner? As I understand it, you did it for years and years.
Years and years, yeah. I don't know, I just loved giving of myself. And like I said, at that time the children had all left home, and I had time on my hand. And I remember as law enforcement torch run, and we started what they called, it was one of the fundraisers, the truck convoy, and I coordinated that for Pinal County, and also had my children and daughter-in-laws, they all helped me with that because I wanted them to get involved in giving of themselves also. So, and also with the American Red Cross, I was the disaster chairman. I was called out for fires and floods that occurred in the Pinal County chapter. So I just love giving of myself and trying to help wherever I can,
Yeah.
wherever I'm needed.
That's beautiful. And so, you grew up in Coolidge, but as I understand it, you spent a lot of time out in Randolph. What's something that when you look back at on your time out in Randolph, you remember most or you cherish most?
The people. Everybody was so loving, so caring. It was just like one big happy family. Even in Randolph, I spent most of the time at the church, and we had families, and the church organization, they really did involve us as youth. So we did so we was taught so much about giving of ourselves too. So that I think that's part of the reason why I grew up giving of myself so much in the community. And one of the things I love about being out in the community is I love to know everything firsthand. Because usually when someone gives you information about a meeting or something that has occurred, they put too much of their input in it, and I like to just hear everything firsthand for myself and develop my own opinions about what's going on or what people say, and not without an opinion of, without any undue input about it.
Yeah, that's remarkable, and it's refreshing. I feel like, especially nowadays. So, one of the things I wanted to ask you is I understand that poetry is actually sort of a hobby for you,
yes,
and a great
it is.
love for
Absolutely.
you.
I love.
Do you have a poem that you would like to share about
Yes.
what Randolph meant to you?
When there was a situation that occurred recently where SRP was going to build next to Randolph in a community, they started getting together because they was going against it. So I attended one of the meetings, and my heart just opened up about Randolph because I had spent so much time there. So I'll share this poem with you that I had written about Randolph. It says, the community of Randolph. The community of Randolph was home to many. Folks living there shared love a plenty. No high-paying job to buy milk or flour, no running water to take a shower, but laughter on the porch rang out each hour. Families helped each other, lived by the golden rule. Parents worked in the fields while children were at school. Each child felt safe as his own right by a thriving community without a street light, going to school each day, attending church every night. Randolph was deemed spiritual. People came from all around, singing and preaching the gospel while love and compassion abound. Oh, happy days, experiencing great times with peace and joy without any crimes. 3 stores for grocery, an ice house, 3 service stations for gas, its very own U.S. Post Office, all are now part of the past. Though many decades have passed before appearing on the map, what its ancestors has built thought could be taken in a snap. Corporations trying to take over, it has been made very plain. Residents have too much to lose, they're in for greater gain. In God we trust, obeying his command, trusting and believing, together they stand. In spite of what others may plan, no entity is able to take over its land. Randolph hasn't received support from city, county, nor state, though this 4th and 5th generation will not ever negate. Watch it continued growth throughout efforts to incorporate. So grateful to everyone whom stepped up with assistance. The residents shall prevail in the name of Jesus. And I wrote this back in June 2022 when I attended that first meeting of the Salt River Project and the Randolph United Council meetings. And I knew what was in me, and it just came out, what I knew about Randolph and about the people of Randolph. Matter of fact, while working at the sheriff's office, there was one family. At the same time, I worked with 4 of them. One was an officer, one was a corporal, one was a sergeant, and one was a lieutenant, all from the same family. So people sometimes they look down at the people in Randolph, but not just that family. There's so much good people in Randolph, and you just really have to get out there and get to know them and really understand.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was beautiful. What an incredible poem, and you're such an incredible orator as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, you had mentioned the people of Randolph, and because it's a very historical community out there.
Yes.
But I think if you're not from the area, you might not know some of the history of that community. What do you wish more people knew or understood about Randolph?
They could come out and see for themselves. And I remember as a child going to Randolph when they didn't even have water out there. And of course, when one of the supervisors was running for office, he did put street lights out there, but there was so much that wasn't done for Randolph. And so one of the reasons I did mention about no crimes, it was all just one big happy family. And during that time, each family member or adult could have supervised any children out there. And there was 2 uncles, I'll tell you, they kept all the nephews, especially the nephews, and they kept them in check, because they knew, even though they had a mother and father at home, if they see them out late or where they shouldn't be, it was such a beautiful place to be, and it was such a spiritual place. And I remember they was transported to Coolidge schools, and the bus dropped them off, but then the parents would be still out working in the fields. And there was 2 mothers, they was homemakers, they didn't go to work, but after they dropped those kids off to school, they brought them into the church, and believe me, that was the first after-school program. They brought them in and prayed with them and had things with them. They didn't have like they do now with the crafts and all that in the internet, and they just came in and prayed with them and shared with them, and it was such a beautiful place to be. A beautiful place to grow up.
We've actually just got one last question for you. And it's a question we've made it our mission to ask everybody who comes on the show this question. And I'd love to get your input, because I think you have such a rich experience here in Pinal County. And you'd mentioned earlier the importance of giving of yourself. And so I think you have a beautiful perspective. But let's imagine it's 10, 20, 30 years down the line, and everything you've ever dreamed of accomplishing, whether it's looking back on your career in retirement. I know you had mentioned too that poetry is a big love for you.
Yes.
And especially in retirement, it's something you're looking to dedicate some time to. So and of course you've also got your volunteerism and your involvement in the community, but you've accomplished everything you could ever dreamed of with all of that. And now you're ready to see the next generation start taking over some of those projects, whether it's, of course you're retired now, but whether it's with the sheriff's office or in volunteerism or things like that. And of everything you've learned and experienced throughout your years, you can only leave behind one piece of advice or one lesson to pass on to that next generation, what would it be?
Just to be true to yourself, because you don't need to try to be like anyone else. God made us all individually. He made us all different, but we're all the same. There's no reason to compete with anyone. Also, we no matter where you are, where you've been, where you're going, we're all the same. We just may look different, but we all the same. And like myself, my children, I have a daughter and 3 sons and 1 adopted daughter. My 4 children are military, but you just have to go out and be yourself. And with me, I have 12 grandchildren, and I do have an international household. I have children from the Philippines, from Germany, from Puerto Rico. So regardless of where you're from, we're all God's people. And we need to treat each other the way we want to be treated. So just be you and let God do what He can with you. Just serve Him and let Him help you be the best for you.
Gussie Taylor, thank you so much. You were incredible, and I so appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you.